said, I asked him if he wouldn't mind sticking around during my first year as executive director. So I appreciate the extension that you offered, and appreciate your willingness, Pam, to take this role. Unlike you, Mayor Ryback, I actually did work for Pam. So I know what that's like, and I may caution against that.
And that you were willing to do it again is amazing. You know?
That's right. That's right. So
Did you have a vote on this? I'm not sure. Yeah.
So thank you, both of you. You have asked us each meeting to provide a report on the metrics, the metrics that really shape the work that we do. Knowing that the DMC development plan established 20-year goals around experience, around jobs, around private investment, around tax revenue, and asked us to each meeting unpack that a bit and talk about a specific goal and something specific about that goal. And so for this meeting, we want to talk to you about the private investment strategy that's occurring, but specifically the work that Mayo Clinic is doing. So just knowing that in September, we'll come back and talk about how our goal around tax revenue is being achieved. And then in November, we'll come back and talk about metrics around experience. With that, we invited Doug Holton, Chair of Facilities at the Enterprise Mayo Clinic, which is another way of saying Doug is in charge of all of the facilities for a multinational company and a multi-billion-dollar company. And but he takes my calls whenever I call him. So very fortunate to have the relationship we do with Mayo Clinic and their facilities department. And I asked Doug to share with this body the 5-year update that it does every year to the city, and to, with that information, give you a clue, give us all a clue in some of the direction they're headed from a capital investment point of view. So with that, Doug.
Thank you, Patrick, for the nice introduction. Madam Chair and board members, I'm here to share with you a highlight of the 5-year plan update that Mayo Clinic goes through. Also talking about our special districts, which we enjoy to help us be efficient and hopefully help the city efficiency and less burden on the city for projects as they go forward. I have about 5 slides to go through. Happy to answer any questions you may have after the slides, or please stop me during the slides if you'd like. So as Patrick mentioned, every 5 years, we do provide the city with a comprehensive inventory of our footprint in Rochester, and also look to the future as far as potential projects, and I want to emphasize potential projects that could be pursued in the next 5-year timeline. With that, this past March, the City Council did unanimously approve our 5-year update that was issued in 2021, and I appreciate the City Council for their continued support to Mayo Clinic and this plan. This does allow us to proceed with projects in an expedited approval process. I'll get more into that as the slides come up, as well as helps us to flexibly manage our projects within these districts. And we hope creates efficiency for the city as far as administrative burden reviewing and some of the process that we do not have to go through as far as public hearings and others to bring projects forward. So we have 3 special districts. We have our downtown district, you see on the right with a red dashed outline. It does connect down 2nd Street where we have our hospitality homes to our west sub-district, medical sub-district, which is our St. Mary's campus. The 3rd special district is off of this map, but it's in northwest Rochester off of West Circle Drive and 41st Street area, where of course we have a lot of our support service buildings, Superior Drive, Mayo Clinic Lab building, warehouses, print shop, linen drop for Midwest warehouses, etc. So significant amount of support activities on the west side of Rochester, northwest side. So what happens within these districts? This, as I mentioned, this does allow us to have an abbreviated Rochester city approval process. Within the central sub-district, we have no height limits, no minimum lot size, and as well as, and this is one of the main benefits that we definitely enjoy, is to treat these areas as a true district, and to meet city guidelines as a district rather than individual parcels of land and buildings. So we can treat districts treat as a district as far as floor area ratio, loading docks, parking is really addressed as a individual district versus parcels. So the data within the forecast, first of all, for the last 5-year plan that we provided to the city that was endorsed, the data cutoff point was January of 2021. As you can imagine, this is quite a long process to inventory what's put into that report. So that is when the data cutoff is for that report that was recently submitted. It does include an inventory of information from property ownership, employee distribution, building square footage, parking, vehicle circulation, green space. I refer to this document many, many times as we look at our campus and questions come up regarding Mayo property ownership, as well as our leased buildings that we have throughout the city. The potential projects that are at the end of the document are always something of high interest, as you can imagine. Again, these are projects that we feel could occur. We are quite broad in these descriptions to provide that flexibility, and these could be anywhere from new builds to a significant amount of remodeling, refurbishment that we do with our existing facilities, which is a significant amount of capital each year, base capital, just again to keep our facilities on the cutting edge and replacement of aged equipment. Again, this the wide inventory projects again provides that flexibility that I mentioned. Just a couple examples of visible projects that we had in previous 5-year updates that have now progressed. And again, these are more visible ones other than the ones that I mentioned go on in existing space. But of course, our expansion of the proton beam therapy program that has had a fair amount of attention. Right now, we're in preparatory work for that, building a new logistics building immediately to the east of the Methodist complex where the Days Inn used to be. That will be a logistics building opening later this fall, so that we can make way for the proton expansion project to meet that very high demand patient treatment modality for our patients that will serve 900 additional patients every year with the 2 additional gantries created. Helen Building is also heavy under construction. I couldn't help but hear Mr. Williams, you mentioned you were walking around downtown, so you might have seen a couple of the cranes up. I watch the construction every day because being a paper pusher, it sure is fun to see actual construction work, so I look at the cameras every day. We've got a big pour going on the south end, 4th floor right now for Helen. That'll be a 10-floor above grade opening the end of 2023 with a great focus on cancer center activities and cancer center research activities. Discovery Square parking ramp located immediately west of Discovery Square. That will be a 1,200 stall ramp, 2/3 of which will be for Mayo use, 1/3 for non-Mayo Discovery Square occupants. That ramp is being constructed. The south end is going up first. The north end will be completed the balance of this year, opening in January of 22. And then part of our partnership with the city and DMC for bus rapid transit, we're in the early planning stages for as that project we anticipate to continue to mature subway connection under 2nd Street to connect the transit stations supporting that St. Mary's district. So I have one last slide left here, and just to talk about impact and really the partnership of Rochester trades to support Mayo Clinic. In 2021, Rochester area builders and the Builders Exchange completed 89% of all Mayo construction projects. Now, if you pull out the projects at Mayo that we self-performed with our own staff, that number goes up to 99%. So you can see the partnership and the impact of these projects to the community supports Mayo and our growth and our facilities needs, but also the impact we feel is significant. And partnership with John Nation and the Builders and Exchange are invaluable, and John's a great partner personally. Finally, we do feel that this transparency, being a major employer in a city, is unique benefit that we feel is important, and again, feel that that's a great partnership that we continue to have in the community. So with that, I'll pause with my prepared materials and be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Holton. We're happy to have you here today, even if I thought Aaron might be preceding you. I knew you were coming, but this is very helpful, and I appreciate particularly the last point on this slide. You are represent a very complex organization, very significant organization, and I think the ability to be collaborative with public entities in a way that still works for your business interests is really unique and much appreciated and helps us be much more effective in our goals here. So any other questions for Mr. Holton, comments?
I would just like to thank you for the update. I have been very interested in the past, trying to understand what Mayo's plan is. In many respects, your plan is really the guidepost to help us to know what it is that we need to do. And so I just underscore the importance of you continuing to update us as this changes over time. As I say, this is very helpful and appreciate you doing this morning, but we need to stay close.
Mr. Williams?
No, I just appreciate the comment, and that is critical. And this is our 5-year update to the city. We do have a 25-year master plan, which is a Mayo internal document that this 5-year update pulls from that. So as significant changes occur, that definitely is updated in our 5-year update with potential projects. So I definitely appreciate that comment, Mr. Campbell.
And I just wanted to build off that comment as well, and actually ask the question: has kind of the current 5-year plan been altered in any way, kind of post-pandemic? So, in terms of the things that you all are you kind of still on track with that 5-year plan? Are you kind of, as you look forward a little bit, are you cautious? How are you thinking about that?
Sure. So the potential projects, as we mentioned, are fairly broad, I think, so we're covered a lot that we would not be changing a lot of the potential projects going forward, really providing support for our 3 shields of practice, education, research. Now, that said, Mayo is not unique to any other organization across the nation as we're looking at our footprint of support space, and we are actively looking at how can we best utilize our footprint, do some consolidation to support on-site presence, as well as staff that do come in a hybrid role. Again, too, we have a significant number of people that have gone to more remote working, like many industries, and that has been very positive, turned into be very positive for the staff, positive from a recruitment. We find, however, we definitely feel that the pendulum's going to move a little bit. And what is going to be key is to continue to foster a very robust on-site presence of staff, as well as how do you provide the right space for staff that may come on for teaming, collaboration, some of the work that cannot be done remotely. And so we're actively looking at how we can support that. And that's not just in Rochester, that's in our health system, and same challenges in Jacksonville and Phoenix.
Thank you.
Other questions? Member Ryback?
I have actually 2 questions, but they both relate to the relationship between Mayo and its employees and parking and transit. So let me put them together, and maybe that's the easiest way to do it. The first is a pretty direct one, which is the idea of we have taken the stance, or I certainly have said it, and I think others have supported it, that we don't want to just build parking ramps. We want to make sure, for instance, that to the west, we are creating a transit village, and you own that property, and we want to be in partnership. So my first question is, how can we continue to partner with you? And I know we're doing some work on that to make sure that that becomes fully a transit village and not a park and ride. Nothing wrong with park and rides, but we're about creating community. The second question is sort of the broader issue, which is how do we, as you look at this, really create a vision for where you see people moving to the workplace, how that changes now with different remote work, and how we can, I believe, set a goal that the more we remove surface parking lots in the city, the more we create more tax revenue that helps support the city services, the more vibrancy we create. Sometimes that's going to be possible. Sometimes we need to build more parking, as we have in the Discovery Square area. But how do we create a more two-way vision about how we're doing our best to remove the surface parking lots and get more transit use and or build parking in targeted areas. So sorry I'm asking two questions, but they're really the same question about this, the very important connection. And I think honestly, it's the most important one. I've always said that mobility and land use and that connection together is our big issue. How are you looking at that? And are we partnering enough and can we do more?
Sure. So there's a lot to unpack there.
And you don't have to
Madam
answer
Chair,
it
if we
all.
have until noon, I can start in, if you like, and then no, it's a very serious and a very challenging, and we are a very large employer, and that really have a great deal of concentration of staff that require parking and transportation. Continuing, I'm going to try to address your questions, maybe not exactly sequentially, but I'll try to hit them as best I can, and please redirect. So definitely, as we continue to promote alternative ways outside of single vehicle transportation in partnership with the city with our fully subsidized bus pass program, which I cannot recite the exact number, but I think it's nearing 90% of all ridership is Mayo employee, which is fully subsidized, if you will. So continue to support that, being supportive, of course, of bus rapid transit moving ahead. Yes, West Transit Village, key to that on our end is that large parking facility, that 2,500 stall that we refer to. But Mayo, we are very keen and supportive of the rest of that site being there, of course, to support the transit center itself, the public parking component, and then either through land lease or outright sale, we've not decided that yet, we need to have a developer, and Patrick as partner, of course, with Mayo on this, DMC is on what's the development to make that truly a village. So we are in with that. But the ramp is critical to making that work. That is the volume that's required to support the transit line.
Could I make just one, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, just one question on that? Can we push the idea of looking for it? I'm sorry, what's the exact number? Is it 4,500 spaces?
We're predicting 2,500 planning model.
Yeah, so 2,500 in one ramp is a really big ramp. If we could think about the idea of 2,500 spaces as opposed to a ramp, it may wind up being a ramp, but there may be a model that emerges about taking that site and not having every single car coming out at the exact same time in the exact same space. So just if a pitch I'd make is for us to think about that as a number of spaces you need at that site, as opposed to locking in on the idea that it's one ramp with one exit at one time.
Understand. And definitely, that's, currently we have about 900 there. So to make the significant investment we are making, the capacity definitely has to jump up, and the numbers need to be there to support the BRT that we're seeking funding for. So definitely support there. What else can be done? And also it has to be a major satisfier for our staff to use it, right? It has to be greater than what we have right now with our privatized shuttle system, and that's why so much effort with and work with Cindy and her team, Cindy Steinhauser and her team on the parking agreement. So we have a good operating agreement in place given the funding that will be provided. Personally, I feel that this is only the beginning of bus rapid transit to support Mayo Clinic, downtown Rochester, and the growing Broadway corridor. And I would like to see continue start planning for the southern route of that BRT to continue on down to support where we have another large surface lot, but also the private investment development that can occur. I see that starting to work together there to where how are you sharing then the true parking need to support those venues, as well as downtown venue needs, downtown employee needs. So I think continuing of that planning sooner versus later will only help support an overall transit system and make it more of a satisfier. We definitely, parking is definitely a dissatisfier for our staff. If you see surface parking lots, that really is Mayo Clinic's land bank for future growth. So we talk about our future growth needs. That really is mainly for a higher purpose for use of that land. We are continuing to look at other ways to support our employees. And again, we talked about the subsidized bus, the van pool system that we're using, and what is the next best thing out there. I'm gonna get the term wrong, but I know I saw it either in the Post Filter or on TV about the city may be looking at micro mobility, and we've looked at similar things also for our employee base. To say, at least in the shorter term, how can they provide that as another way to support the employee base coming in? So we are definitely very supportive of the larger remote sites with a very strong system to bring people in and out. But as we know, it has to be efficient. It has to be a satisfier for that use. And we definitely do feel that's the right thing to do from a transportation standpoint, as well as just a good stewards of our environment.
Member Carlson?
Sure, just wanted to touch on that statement about this being the start of bus rapid transit. That is just incredibly important messaging for our community who sometimes ask, well, why are we just focusing on this one corridor and that's not going to meet my needs, or that's not going to meet Stewartville or, Yoda, other surrounding communities' needs, or for instance, the people living further east in our community that also need to commute into town. So I think that's really important, and that's not something I hear very often, especially directly from Mayo. So I'm hoping that we can continue to weave that into our talk of rapid transit, that this is the start of a system, and we're continuing to prioritize transportation in the most efficient, effective, but also comfortable, convenient way.
Thank you.
Any other, Member Norton?
Thank you. So my questions come from the discussion, talking about transportation, and as was shown on the map, the amount of parking spaces, prime real estate that you have downtown and its future use. And so it takes me back to the beginnings of Destination Medical Center, when we talked about the 6 or 8, I think it changed periodically, focuses of Destination Medical Center. As a city, when we own land, we often talk about, I'm not sure we actually do it as often as we talk about it, but what are the things that we want in our downtown area, in our city? And if we own that land, how do we incent that thing to be developed? And as I was listening to you, I'm thinking beyond parking, and I know we have to address that and we will moving ahead. Are you thinking about some of that property as incenting some of those 6 or 8 pillars that the Destination Medical Center was focused on, and how are you incorporating, if you are, that kind of thought process in your future planning?
So I'll try to address that best I can. As we look at our campus and as we've updated our campus plan, definitely the integration, and I grew up in Rochester, and I know back when it was really the Mayo cocoon and there was everything else. I mean, just to use the integration and really kind of the ease of the Mayo and outside of our campus space kind of working in harmony together. I see that continuing. As we look at some of our key strategic plots that we definitely have pre-shield or mission-driven ideas for that. But how can we work together to support private development to meet some needs that we may have that we would rather use our current property for a higher use, if you will. So Mayor Norton, I continue to see that occurring, to continue to support outside business, so we use our critical resource to the best ability, but also really that marriage of Mayo and non-Mayo space for staff, for public, and patients needs to continue to mature.
Well, Mr. Holden, I just want to thank you again for being here today. I think this unprecedented investment of state resources to help achieve the goals of DMCC is really about facilitating, motivating, and accomplishing private investment in this community. Obviously, Mayo is a huge contributor to that goal, and I know we share a goal about investing in, seeing investment from other private entities and diversifying the economy of Rochester as well. But it's a critical partnership between your employer, your organization, and the public entities represented at this table. So we thank you for being here today, and look forward to continued discussion with you about your development opportunities in this community.
Thank you for your time and discussion. I appreciate it. Thanks, Patrick.
Patrick, I believe I'm turning it over to you for the project discussions. I know we have